Welcome to another episode of Community Matters with Greg Lemay. I'm coming to you from inside MediaWorks Studios on Walker Road. I'm joined today by owner of Mezzo's, Filip Rocca, and owner of Primary Social Club, Christian Pinard. This episode is going to focus on basically supporting local and what's going on in terms of how our businesses have moved through COVID, how the restaurant industry, the bar industry has moved, adjusted in terms of patios, bylaws. Basically, that's where we're going to go with this one. So, Phil, this one I'm going to leave to you. How have you adjusted to COVID? Have you had to spend money to make money? And has that drawn your customers back, or do you feel like you lost customers during this?
Well, hello everybody. We did have to adjust, obviously, some things to follow the guidelines from the health official in Windsor and Ontario. So that was a little bit of getting used to. Did we have to spend some money? Obviously, we had to spend some money for sure in regards to umbrellas, some bases, hand sanitizer, your mask, your general things. So there had to be some money spent. So we had to dip into some personal funds to get that going. Mm-hmm. The feedback has been amazing so far. I can't ask for anything better right now. The weather's been great, a couple of days of rain, but other than that, we're super happy to obviously go to phase 2 and just looking forward to phase 3.
And the patio's been good. It's been busy.
Very busy. Every night's been busy that we're open. So
awesome.
Yeah.
What about you, Christian?
Yeah, similar. I was fortunate enough to be on really good terms with a lot of our neighbors. So we really weren't designed for this reopen. Like we're running. So I have a commercial kitchen, and I've been donating the space to catering companies that can't obviously do their business. Like I said, support local. If I'm in a position to help another business, get their brand out there, awareness, and so on and so forth. But essentially being, kind of a tiny, more of a dance-oriented space, trying to figure out the logistics of now having table service and figuring out tabs and POS systems, and still falling in with what seemed like insurmountable guidelines to appease the COVID gods. It's been good. I feel like this is it's a community effort, and it's nice knowing that if I need to borrow tables, I have neighbors willing to lend them, and if they need to borrow ice, I got a very big machine. So.
I visited you last week, and you had your table set up 3 or 4 places down the sidewalk. Is that the businesses that you're talking about that have been supporting you?
No, not even that. You happen to visit during the extended patio, so it was a little bit. It seems like the dynamics of where we're allowed to set up change every few days. So essentially, what we had done is we have a convenience store right next door, mm-hmm. and he was nice enough to kind of let us just shift the tables just on the other side of our patio railing to allow for easier 6 feet between the back of chairs. I wasn't looking for any more tables. I was just looking for more space between tables and not losing the functionality of what we had going for us. So right. He's been super awesome for that. And because of the way the sidewalk is cut, it doesn't impede the sidewalk. And we haven't gotten in trouble yet. So I'm just going to keep doing it.
And you've recently just had to put in a new patio in the back too, right?
Yeah. So we had parking spots that, like I said, one of the laws is that you were allowed a space adjacent to a currently licensed establishment, which is kind of one of the biggest grievances I have, because the majority of the phone calls that we're getting from concerned citizens is they see people loitering in what is supposed to be a hip alley space, but they don't realize that I'm actually allowed to have that legally as long as it falls within the parameters of the social distancing.
Right. And now at Mezzo's, you're in the same position where your patio, you've now turned the corner. Mm-hmm. I remember your patio was glassed in. Are you expanding that as a permanent thing, or is that the hope?
Yeah. So during the COVID closure time, I ended up going ahead with the AGCO, and I actually applied for a permanent mm-hmm. front patio. So next year we'll have a wraparound patio, which will wrap around our whole building going onto Erie Street.
That's awesome. So
I am approved for it. I just did it just in case that the city didn't come through on their end and said that we couldn't expand. I was going to do it anyway because I have licensing. Yeah. So, but I wanted to do that licensing anyway. So that alone is a pretty penny to spend in regards to railings and AGCO licensing, chairs, tables. You're looking at $20,000 just for patio. So next year we're going to have 97 seats wrap around our whole building. But on Christian's note there, we had excellent neighbors beside us as well. We had Bella Bridal beside us. We put some tables in front of her. My landlord's office is behind us. We put some tables in front of him. So like I said, with the weather being great and the ability to expand and the city not being too tough on us, it's been good so far. So we're just praying for some nicer weather, at least till phase 3 hits, and then go from there.
So it's something you both kind of said and touched on was that it seems like your neighbors are really helping you, like in terms of at least allowing you to use some space, and that's nice to hear.
I think any small business, no one wants to see another small business close.
No.
So if we can help each other, whether in the smallest way or in a large way, I gave some umbrellas to my neighbor because I purchased a bunch, and everybody went out to purchase a bunch, and now there's a shortage of umbrellas in the city. So I had a couple extra ones, and I gave them to my neighbor to use. And some customers were like, why are you giving her? Why are you bringing umbrellas over there? I'm like, because she needs them, and
to help.
And I have enough, and just something
Even
silly, small like that, and it goes a long
just
way.
to touch on that, like I said, I usually open at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and now I'm opening up at 5 o'clock. And like I said, we're trying to run some sort of formal food service. So it's like the sun's still out, and I just happen to be right at a spot where the sun's. So I'll run across the street to Patio Lounge and be like, hey, do you guys mind if I take some of your umbrellas? No problem. Yeah. I think I got my tables from Foundry, which is being renovated in Copper Rose Distillery. I got my extra chairs from the Chelsea and Tequila Bob's. I was not built for this, nor do I want to take on a $20,000 expenditure. Yours made a little bit more sense because of the permanency of it. But it's not like when we go to phase 3, phase 4,
you don't know what's going to happen.
I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, obviously the response right now has been fantastic, and I mean, having that food aspect, but it's like I said, this was not by design. I'm flying by the seat of my pants here, and every day it's like, okay, who am I gonna piss off least? Is it the AGCO? Is it bylaw?
Yeah.
Is it the police? Is it the health unit? It's like literally whoever's in front of me. I was like, if I'm doing something wrong, it's not malicious.
Of course.
Just tell me
exactly
what you want me to do, and I will do it immediately. And then the next person comes like, you need to move that back, and it's like, what do I do?
so that brings me to my next question. I remember reading something, I don't know if it was in the Windsor Star or online, in terms of whether it was bylaw or whoever was coming out, and if they were noticing infractions like you guys are pointing out, are they being strict on it, or are they educating you?
Well, we had one of the first street closures on Erie Street this past weekend. I know downtown had one, but it was kind of falling with the parade weekend that you guys had closed already. So anyways, we had some police officers come into the building on Friday night, and I'm like, can I help you? And they're like, no, we're just making sure that everyone's social distancing. And they just were on their way, but they kept driving by with their police cars, and
so community presence, but not.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Our first weekend that we opened, we had a few table hoppers. You know what I mean? But it's very difficult to get away from that. So I literally put on my menus the first 6 rules of the house. You know what I mean? Stay in your seat.
Stay in your seat. Don't.
To touch on that, I had people dancing because they didn't believe me when I was like, guys, you can't dance.
Can't dance. Yeah.
Like it is illegal to dance
So
in the
it's
province
almost
of Ontario.
it's almost like you're educating too, right?
Oh, of course.
I'm so gracious because I've already had a good rapport with Windsor Police and the AGCO. Not so much the health unit, aside from the one individual we use, but when they come, they're not there with trying to drop the hammer on you.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's like, here, you might not know this. I find that, like I said, I feel it's that sense of malice. You have to be maliciously going out of your way to
do something
break the law. I figured you're entitled to one mistake if you keep making that same mistake.
Exactly.
And then they're going to be like, well, clearly we tried to tell you this is the way it needs to be done.
Yeah.
You chose not to listen. Here's the corresponding fine. But the majority is like, I'm like, guys, I literally had the liquor inspector here half an hour ago telling me this was okay.
Yeah.
I have you here now telling me it's not okay. I was
So
like,
it seems like the rules change.
I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus here. So just come to one concise answer, and I will. I find it's as simple for me to do the wrong thing as it is to do the right thing, from a time standpoint or an efficiency standpoint. So it seems like I said, and on above of that, every 3 days, it's like, okay, that's not a rule anymore. This is the new rule. Here's how we're going to handle it. It's like, guys, we're trying our best here.
Right.
Yep.
So one thing I noticed in the last little bit, especially on Olette in the downtown BIA, it seemed like they're really supportive of what's going on in terms of open streets. You're having your restaurants out in the streets, your tables at certain times between, obviously it's Wyandotte and Olette, or Wyandotte and the Drive on Olette. Can you tell me a little bit about what the BIA is doing in terms of their support?
Well, ours has been awesome. I think we kind of had a changing of the guard with the downtown BI in the last year, and
Brian, yeah.
Brian's done an awesome job. He's like super vocal. I feel like. And like I said, I thought Larry was doing a great job too. It's just I feel it was just a difference of perspective.
Yep.
Like it was more like, here's what the BIA thinks, the BIA members and the people sitting on the board did this. I feel like now you're getting a little bit more involvement from the actual membership. Where it's like here is like especially like on our block where primary is right next to Manchester and Chelsea. Like Wyandotte to Park has always kind of been on the outskirts of any of the street closures simply because of the hotel. So it either it didn't appease transit or the hotel couldn't get their guest in. So like thinking outside of the box and being like, okay, there's got to be a way we can utilize this space and still keep everyone on this block happy. Where before it was just like, it's not worth it. We're just going to start the street closure at Park.
Right.
Because it just was easier with the one-way traffic and everything. So it was nice. We had an awesome Zoom meeting where it was like, okay, guys, it's like, here's what we're asking for. It's like shoot for the moon, land in the stars. And we kind of got that. And like I said, it was obviously a joint effort. Now with these boardwalks downtown, like I love seeing that. Like I feel like I go to any other comparably sized city and you see these boardwalks.
The
and
London markets.
Right? You see these street closures and you see, buskers and God bless his soul, Mark Boscaria was trying to bring a little bit of that to even Walkerville. And I remember seeing that. I was like, we need this more than once a year. Like this can't be a one-off. It needs to be like, I want that energy every weekend if possible. And obviously cost associated to it. I mean, Phil had touched on it, I'll throw it back to him, but it's not cheap to do this, but it's like, there's gotta be a way where like the city can quell their liability concerns without putting you so far beyond, like so far behind to start off an event. And I mean, you can touch on the numbers probably better than I can because you're the president of the BIA.
So back to you on that same point, you being the president of the BIA on Erie, what have you guys done to support each other, if anything?
Yeah, no, for sure. We've tried to stay in communication throughout the closures, due to COVID, to just to communicate with them in regards to what's available regarding the subsidies and stuff like that, the loan. But we've been pushing the city for a few months now to allow the street closures, which obviously they granted. So we just had one this past weekend, and it was amazing. Like so many people called us and said thank you very much for everything you guys done. We were super busy. We've had little breakfast place, an example, go from 5 tables to 25 tables, and they had a lineup around the corner.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like super excited. Like this is making businesses survive. Without this,
right.
there'd be a big problem.
But
for sure.
I feel like the average consumer doesn't realize the cost associated to just even having that person standing there. I mean, if you want to touch on that.
I could touch on it. So we have 6 closures. We just had one between security and our labor. We're looking at almost $20,000 to $30,000 over that 6 weeks.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Plus our street signs that we need due to traffic with the city, plus the barricade rentals. So definitely it's not free.
No, for sure.
I don't want anybody thinking it's for free, but the BIA allocated a bunch of money to the Carousel of Nations, which didn't happen. So we just kind of shuffled some funds and try to stay within the budget.
And just sorry to cut you off, and I think that's why it's so imperative that like Windsor as like a whole gets behind these events because, like I said, for us it was the boardwalks. There's a very well written article by Ann Jarvis, I believe, where it's like. And I reposted it and I said, like, if you don't support innovation, people will stop innovating. And
Correct.
whether it's it might seem simple to you. It's like, oh, well, there's not really much going on. It's because we're not allowed to have much going on. Like the intricacies of just even get those street closed and getting, like you said, those extra 20 tables. Like if they're not filling those 20 tables, they had to go rent those tables and chairs. And like, there's nothing worse than putting this effort behind, let's call them an event. And then no one shows up for one reason or another, or it rains. I mean, thank God we've had beautiful weather. I think we've had 2 rain days since we've been allowed to reopen. But like, this is where it's on Windsor. I mean, small business, we're putting in the work. I don't remember the last day I've worked less than 16 hours.
Yeah, I know.
So it's like we're getting it ready. So it's like when the chairs are there and the tables are set, like we need asses and seats. So like that's on you, Windsor.
Back to fees, we're definitely going to be pushing and been talking to Debbie Croucher as well, pushing to eliminate all patio fees going forward.
So that goes into my next question.
Yeah.
I think council's done a pretty decent job trying to navigate through this in terms of, lighting the restrictions on patios. What do you guys feel about that? Like, obviously not throwing anybody in the bus.
No, it's
just a simple question in terms of, do you think council, administration, the city as a whole has done enough to at least support you, keep you in a spot where we can keep this going and keep it positive? And
yeah, I want to thank the mayor and the council for approving it and pushing things forward. But I don't want to look at it short term. I want to look at it long term, like we spoke about earlier. This should be happening every summer. I've been having customers just saying, "Why isn't this closed every summer?" And they have their reasons why, in regards to emergency vehicles and stuff like that. But we can accommodate that.
We can make it work.
We can make it work, and I don't believe that we can't make it work.
We're proving right now that we can.
Yeah, exactly. So
I like that. We can make it work.
yeah, we can make
Let's
it work.
just go with that.
There you go. There
Nothing's
you go.
bolted down, guys.
We can make it work. Put that at the bottom, guys.
10 cents every time it's going to Filip Rocca.
We can make it work. Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think they've done an awesome, given they're just catching a lot of stuff secondary, like provincially, and I mean even like being painted in the same brushstroke as a lot like Windsor, Essex County.
Yep.
Then you look at I'm a big metrics guy. I mean, like if you're like, okay, we can't open Windsor for these reasons, but it was never really substantiated in any empirical evidence, and like you're always put like like I said, in the same week. Like you do something good, you do something bad, you're criticized, you're chastised, you're complimented. It's just like, guys, like it's already difficult enough as a small business owner in the best of times in the province of Ontario. And we're slightly biased because like obviously hospitality is already razor thin margins. So it's like if you're making money, it's because you're running everything as tight as you can. So
and it's also you guys working as opposed to having staff.
To have to incur all these additional expenses, like I mean, like let's assume that it was one individual business that had to put out an extra $30,000-$40,000 in additional expenses.
They're probably
in a
down.
Good year, some of these businesses might only be profiting $30,000-$40,000.
Right.
So it's like the asks from certain regulatory bodies just seem so, like I said, insurmountable at certain points. It's like if you want this, it's going to cost you this. It's like well, then it's not worth it. So if every extended patio was going to cost every individual bar owner $5,000 to $10,000, I'd be like, oh, I don't even know if people are going to come out. So the risk reward is just not there.
100%. If they did a survey in regards to asking people why don't you have a patio, the answer would be
money, red tape,
rental of the space.
10 steps back to break even.
Would be rental of the space from the city, so patio fees, and the cost of building the patio.
So that brings me to the next point. There was a post put out by Councillor Chris Holt regarding the boardwalk out front of LaGuardia and Pinache. And he had said, this is how I want my city to be. I totally agree with that. What do you guys think about that? Do you think, and you touched on the Ann Jarvis article, she had pointed out that if this works, why do we stop it? This should continue. So it goes back to what you guys just said, that we should be continuing this. We can make it work.
Yeah.
And we should be doing everything to make it work. Do you guys have anything to add on that?
Well, I mean, like without sounding jaded, like Windsor historically has been known as the anti-everything city, and it's not a jab at any individual. It seems like it's more of a groupthink mentality, anti-ingenuity, anti-innovation, in the sake of fear and liability. What if hypothetical happens? It's like, well, we'll make it work. It's like trying to do something that will, bring tourism or, attract new development, new investors to the city. It's like, what if this hypothetical happens right there? We can't, it's not risk. Then it's the city's problem, the city's liability. It's like, at a certain point, I feel like Windsor catches up 10 years after everybody else. And I don't know if it's just for fear of taking that leap or, a risk tolerance, but I feel like we have a good young crop of talent in the city, from councillors to people working in the city, the building department, individual business owners. That it seems like inconceivable that we can't get in a room and just be like, okay,
hash some things out.
Let's just make it work.
Right.
It's like even like Bayfest in Sarnia is always my example. Why can't Windsor have a Bayfest? You put all this money into into the festival arena downtown, and it sits vacant 99% of the year because to use it, no problem, extremely affordable to use it, but then all the coinciding fees to actually have an event there is astronomical. So it's like, hey guys, time out. Let's get in a room with people who have even opposing views and just see how we can
make something work.
Make something work.
Make something work that's going to be better for
not
just the people.
The one inevitable outcome can't be nothing. There has to be something, and we will make it work.
Yeah, something that's going to work is, like I said, for the people. It's going to work for, you know, tax dollars. It's going to work for the BIA. It's going to work for the business owners. It's going to work for everybody.
And it's not
as a whole.
downtown versus Erie versus
No.
Ottawa Street versus
absolutely.
Walkerville. It's
Everybody wants
let's
to
get
survive, and everybody
50,000
wants.
more people to Windsor
Yeah.
for a cool event that Windsor's known for internationally.
Yeah.
You don't think we're all going to thrive?
Hey, Miami does it. I shared that with you before on Lincoln Road. Everything's on the street.
Well,
If you
maybe
look
don't be Florida.
Yeah,
right
no,
now,
I,
but
no, I
that's-
understand that. But if you go to downtown Pittsburgh, you're in that same boat. You go to anything, everything they've got in the street, especially in the one main downtown area. Everything's in the street, and that place is
Well, look at all our festivals. They're
Fun.
they're pretty much gone.
they
I
are.
don't remember. I used to love going to festivals and being part of it. As you know, Mezzo have a booth and stuff, and now
No, it's
there's a
pretty much
reason why
gone.
they're going away slowly. And the only reason why is the liability and the fees.
Liability, and everyone's
And the
worried, right?
fees.
Everyone's
Yeah.
worried. Well, guys, thanks for joining the show. Obviously, it was another good episode of Community Matters with Greg Lemay. We're coming to you from inside MediaWorks Studios, and that's it for now.